All right. Hello and welcome. I'm Anna Ozarzak. I'm a digital strategist here at Google, and I'm your host for the live stream today. I'm very, very excited to have in studio with us our Google's chief evangelist for brand marketing, Gopi Kallayil. He's going to be talking with us a bit today about his perspective and experience in working in the brand marketing space, and help us understand a little bit of how we can take some action to also benefit from all of those things that he's learned and the things that our consumers are doing differently to build our brands on the web and all over the place. So Gopi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Anna. Delighted to be here.
So let's hop right into it. What is it about branding that matters so much to marketers?
So brands have always mattered, Anna, in our world, and brands matter even more so in today's world. I think it is important to build a good brand. And to me, the reasons are very simple. First of all, there is a proliferation of choices in terms of brands in every category. As the economy expands, as the economy becomes more global, whether it's shoes or apparel or food products, there is a plethora of choices that you have to choose from in terms of settling on a brand.
That's very true.
Similarly, the opportunity to research any brand has also become much more richer for the consumers in that they can go to the internet, they can pull out a phone and look at a lot of information about the brands. And I often see this. You walk down a supermarket aisle and you'll see people standing with the phone, quickly looking up something about a brand, about a product, before they actually pick it up off the rack. So there is this abundance of research and information that is available, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. Like, what brand do I pick for my shampoo, or what brand do I pick for a pair of running shoes? And along with it, what has happened is that when you engage with any sort of content or digital, there is what I call the digital clutter. A lot of brands are trying to talk to you. So the way to step above all of this noise is to be a distinctive brand, because when you are a distinctive brand, when you are one of the most reputed brands, the consumer it makes it easy for them to pick the brand, because they know it is accompanied by a certain level of quality, a certain reputation, a certain amount of trust. And also, as a brand, you stand up and above what I call this digital clutter. So brands are extremely important, even more so in today's digital age than before.
That makes sense. So when you talk about today's digital age, what do you think has really changed that's gotten us to this point that we're at today?
Okay, that's a great question, Anna. And so before I say what has changed, it might be useful to step back and say what has not changed in how brands connect, engage, and relate to consumers. Okay. So what has not changed is that every single brand out there, whether it's Nike or Starbucks or Disney, at the core of it, what they're really trying to do is to establish a lifelong relationship with their target audience, with their target consumer. And at Google here, we call it a brand relationship arc. In fact, if you look at the picture on the screen, the way we describe that relationship every brand is trying to establish is, it starts with first an awareness of the brand. When the customer first says, I know this brand exists, I know Virgin is known for something. And from that point, once they use the product or service, the relationship may change from just awareness to some sort of an affinity, where they'll say, I care about this brand. It represents me. It's when it gets to the represents me, that it represents my personality, that the audience is now occasionally even willing to feature the brand on their body. That's when the Starbucks t-shirt or the Nike cap comes out. And in some cases, like Harley Davidson, the customer is willing to tattoo the logo on their body. To that extent, they say it reflects my personality. And then some percentage of the consumers will move up to the top right end of that relationship arc, where they become amplifiers of the brand. And when it gets to the amplification stage, you as a brand, even if you make an occasional small mistake or disappoint the customer, they will still come back and buy your product or service. And a very small percentage of consumers will actually move all the way up into the defend category when they become strong defenders of the media, or of the brand, even in social media. And every brand is really trying to move more and more of the consumers up the arc and create a large pool of defenders of the brand.
Okay.
But what has changed is how you get there has changed quite a bit in the digital realm. So let me talk a little bit about how things have changed. The first big change is that how consumers can research brands has changed quite a bit.
Yes.
The amount of information that is available and the amount of times consumers are trying to access this information. So let me give you a couple of data points just to give you a sense of what is going on. If you look at search alone, last month 100 billion searches took place on Google.com. And given that there are an estimated 2 to 3 billion, to upwards of 2 billion people on the internet, that is roughly 50 searches for every single person on the internet. And we know that a lot of those searches are for products and services and brands. So consumers have an access to a lot of information, and how they research has changed. And once they get this basic information, if they want to do deeper research, often they go and look up at online videos, say on YouTube. And again, I'll give you a YouTube stat just to give a sense of this kind of research that is going on.
Sure.
Last month, 6 billion hours of videos were watched on YouTube. That is roughly 3 hours for every person on the internet.
Wow.
And a lot of it, they're watching probably videos about a review for a car or a review for a new phone that they may be considering.
Sure.
So the ability to do that kind of research has changed very dramatically, and brands need to be aware and talk to the consumers on those terms. The second thing that has changed is how brands can engage with consumers in the key moments that matter. Because there's a window when you might be interested in baby products or car seats or a certain type of fitness product.
Sure.
So during that window, you can engage with the consumer in a highly engaging, entertaining way, informative way, whatever is your brand strategy. And those methods have also changed very, very dramatically. And the third thing that we're seeing is now consumers are participating along with brands in the marketing process. So consumers are effectively, to some extent, becoming amplifiers of the brand. They are becoming the brand managers, whether you ask them or not to do. If they're super fans, they do it. And brands should take full advantage of it. So the core of it, what the successful brands are doing is eliciting a certain emotion from the customer that matters to them, that reflects the personality of the brand. And then in the process also eliciting action from the consumer in the moment that matters.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. So in terms of eliciting emotion,
Yep.
getting into that mindset, right, of and trying to make sure you're involved with that potential customer of yours, and actually getting them to act on that. Are there any good examples that you've seen of brands that are doing both of those things?
Yes, absolutely. So let me talk about each one. Let's talk
Sure.
about eliciting emotions.
Sure.
And the best way probably to explain it might be to actually show a brand that has done it very
Fantastic,
successfully. And on purpose, I'm picking a brand that may not necessarily be a well-known household name.
Okay.
And it's a brand called Dela. And they come from a category that, again, is unexpected in that it is a category that initially you might think it is very hard to wrap a good positive emotion around it. Their business touches death. And if you are in a business that touches death, it is not an easy topic to talk about because it's a little morbid for consumers. Nobody wants to go near the topic. So that is the ultimate marketer's challenge. And yet this brand Dela did something really incredible by bringing up a certain human emotion around this topic. They are in the funeral insurance business, and they executed a brilliantly orchestrated campaign across all media, digital and offline. And if you just watch this video, you can see how they elicited emotion around this topic and got their audience to participate. So after we watch this video, let's roll the Dela video, please.
The most beautiful words are often spoken when someone has passed away. Such a shame because the person they talk about can no longer hear them. For the funeral insurance company Dela, we came up with an idea. Why wait until it's too late? Say something wonderful today. We gave people the opportunity to say something wonderful to someone they really care about, and they were completely taken by surprise. We filmed speeches with hidden cameras and created some extraordinary commercials with real people, no actors, honest and sincere.
Ik wil graag iets opdragen aan mijn lieve ouders die hier zitten. Bedankt mam en pap dat jullie je leven in Iran hebben achtergelaten voor mij. Om mij een leven te kunnen bieden waar ik altijd van heb gedroomd. En waarvan ik nooit had gedacht dat het werkelijkheid zou worden. Ik wil jullie heel erg bedanken voor jullie moed en jullie doorzettingsvermogen. En voor alles wat jullie voor mij hebben gedaan.
Pa, ik wil je bedanken voor de mooie jaren hier. En dat niet alleen. Ik ben nu een aantal maanden getrouwd en je hebt mij enorm geholpen met klussen. Eigenlijk sta je altijd voor me klaar. Pa, ik zeg het niet vaak, maar ik hou van je.
Je bent een super zoon in moeilijke tijden en in gewone tijden. Dank je wel, lieve jongen.
Then we gave everyone in Holland the chance to show their love and affection. We made ads with just the word dear. You were invited to fill in the rest yourself. The people of the Netherlands made immense use of this opportunity and uploaded their beautiful words to our special website. You could also share your words via the website or via Facebook. But we went further. From the written ads, we made posters for outdoor. Each poster was unique and was displayed in the area where the person it was meant for lived. And we went even further. On New Year's Eve, we gave people the chance to express their love live on TV. A wave of beautiful words swept over Holland, and we got the message across. It was picked up, talked about, and acted on. And the result? Dela captured a place in the list of top 10 best-known brands in Holland, and the amount of insured capital grew by 50%. But the best result is that Holland grew a bit more beautiful. Why wait until it's too late? Say something wonderful today. Dela, for each other.
Oh, that was a very moving way of communicating about
Isn't
that.
it? Incredible
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
And if you notice what Della did with this video is they were able to bring the human element of love. That was the emotion they unpacked, which is really wrapped around the brand. And they got the customer to talk about it and engage with the brand. And as you can see, a funeral insurance brand
Yeah.
through this campaign went on to become a top 10 brand in the country, and sales increased by 50%.
That's fantastic.
Pretty dramatic story.
Yeah.
The second thing I mentioned is about how do you elicit action.
Yeah.
So let me give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
And here again, I want to pick a brand. I want to start off with a brand that you may not quite expect to have a lot of consumer engagement.
Okay.
Because there are certain categories of brands where you know where the consumer is heavily emotionally invested in
Sure.
the brand and they'd want to talk about it. Cars are into that category, or
Sure.
luxury brands, apparel. You would expect consumers to talk about it, take photographs and post it on the internet, etc.
Sure.
But what has struck me is that even for the most unusual, ordinary, everyday use brands, the consumer is willing to engage and you can actually elicit action from them. So let me start with my first example.
Okay.
What is this?
Looks like a Ziploc.
It is a
bag to me.
Ziploc bag, right? It is a very useful product. Every home has one.
Sure.
But you may not consider it as what I call like a sexy product.
No,
right?
not something I've seen tattooed on anyone's
Exactly.
body, right?
No one walks around the mall saying Ziploc on the t-shirt.
Right.
And yet, if you go to YouTube, for example, and type in Ziploc, if you just bring up that screen, you can see there are 8,000 plus videos on the Ziploc bag alone. And if you scan through these videos, you'll see they're not from the brand. All of them are from actually people who use Ziploc bag. A lot of them are from these mommy bloggers talking about how to use a Ziploc bag to organize your kids' closet or pack for a camping trip,
Yeah.
etc. So this is a great example of the consumer getting into action, promoting the brand, becoming defenders of the
Yeah,
brand
yeah.
completely on their own. And Ziploc may not even have asked them to do it.
Yeah.
On their own volition, they are showing the love for the brand. So this is an example of the kind of action that we are seeing from consumers
Okay.
in promoting a brand on behalf of the brand. And smart brands have figured this out. They've seen this behavior, and what they're doing is curating a lot of the content, encouraging the customers. They are actively eliciting action.
Okay.
A great example of this, a brand that has done extremely well, is Gopro. So if you go to Gopro's YouTube page, and if you bring it up on the screen, you'll see they have all these videos organized beautifully under the Gopro banner,
Yes.
which is their channel on YouTube. And all of these videos are actually submitted by the users. In fact, there is a staggering statistic. Every 2 minutes, a video taken on a GoPro camera is uploaded onto YouTube. And once GoPro saw this phenomena, they started actively eliciting action by inviting their customers to submit these videos. And what GoPro has done with their brand strategy is they said, rather than make GoPro the brand a hero, rather than make the camera a hero, let us make our consumers a hero, and they've given them a platform. And with all of these videos now being uploaded, with the consumer participating in the marketing process,
Yeah.
a couple of interesting phenomena have happened. GoPro is one of the most trafficked online video sites on the internet now.
Wow.
On YouTube alone, they have 600 million views.
Wow.
And the second thing that has happened to the business success is
Yeah.
they've become one of the fastest growing camera companies in the world.
Yeah.
And if you talk to anyone in GoPro, they will say it is completely driven by their consumers rather than by the brand itself. So those are two great examples of how you can actually elicit action.
Absolutely.
And Della was a great example of how you elicit emotion.
Absolutely. So when we're talking a little bit about action, kind of on the latter half of that discussion, what is it that the marketers joining today can actually think about for their own action and their own next steps if they are feeling as excited as I am about trying to help promote their brands a little bit more?
Okay, so let me recommend 3 simple and practical steps.
Okay.
The first is that realizing that there is now an equal opportunity playing field for any brand, however small, however tiny your marketing budget might be. And historically, there might have been this thinking that brand building is only available or accessible to huge mega brands with billions of dollars in marketing budget. But what the digital world has done, it's created an equal opportunity field. And therefore, I would urge every brand marketer out there to give themselves permission to say, we can build a brand even if you're operating with a $0 budget. Because there are those kind of resources that are available for free on the internet for creation and distribution of any brand marketing message that you are trying to create. So start with that.
Sure.
The second is then try to understand the customer. And here again, you don't need to do very expensive, extensive market research. I mean, you have the option to do that.
Sure.
But if that is what is slowing you down or intimidating, you know that there is so much of intelligence around your target audience already available on the internet. You can look at what people are searching for. You can look at what videos they're watching and which videos are rising, what are the comments. You can do digital listening. You can actively ask customers to tell you about your product or service or brand, and they're willing to participate and give you the feedback. So there are very simple, clever, highly effective, and cost-effective ways by which you can understand your consumers today that is now available. And once you understand the customer, then move forward with your brand marketing strategy very quickly on the internet. What I mean by that is, here again, the tendency in the past might have been to analyze this endlessly and come up with that one brilliant brand execution. But what seems to work very effectively today, especially in the digital platform, is to experiment, to launch and iterate. So that's what I would tell all of the brands listening to us today to try and do, to come up with whatever seems your top 3 ideas, for example, and then launch it. You will quickly get the feedback. The audience will tell you with their behavior, with their comments, and then iterate from that and get better at marketing your brand.
Oh, that's fantastic. So the main takeaways, right, and the things I'm hearing you talk about there are to make sure that we're starting by giving ourselves permission to participate in that conversation with our audience and to promote our brand and prioritize our brand and what makes us different as a company or as a marketer. Then actually making sure you know your audience well and using any and all tools that are available, because there's a lot, I guess, that even just that we've looked at today to understand that audience. And the third part is really making sure that you get something going so that you can create that feedback loop for yourself, right? And testing and iterating.
Brilliant. You summarized it well, Anna.
You said it first. So coming kind of up on the close of our time together, are there any kind of final thoughts that you wanted to leave us with today about marketing and branding?
Absolutely. If there's one main message that I want the audience to take away, it is to think of brand marketing for the future not simply as creating a clever or a catchy campaign or a piece of advertising, but to look at the entire customer experience around your product or service. And the brand's message and the brand's personality should be embedded in the entire customer experience. So start with when the consumer first might be researching your brand or product or service, all the way to when they actually actively buy the product or service and use it, engage with it, and then finally when they now will want to talk about it or amplify the brand. So across that entire cycle, your brand's message should be embedded in a very subtle but powerful and highly effective way.
Okay.
And today's digital tool allows you to do that in very creative, clever ways. And that is one of the primary anchors that I want all brands to keep and all brands to think about. And that will lead to a highly effective and highly interesting brand marketing strategy.
No, thank you so much. I think I find this super helpful and a lot of new thought starters for me today. So thank you so much for being here today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And hopefully you learned something just like we did today. Have a good one.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks.